I'm thrilled to welcome Riki Mozes, who's with us today, Head of Global Talent Acquisition at Amdocs. For a little bit about Riki, she's been working in the HR industry for the last 20 years at global companies, always in different executive roles, HR director, head of HR, high tech, pharmaceutical, green energy. And for the last 3 years, she's been the head of TA at Amdocs. She's responsible for all the strategy, has 5 regional managers reporting into her, 90 recruiters across the board, and really focused on strategic, KPI-driven functions and the transformation that has helped or supported Amdocs in meeting the new generation and definition of high impact talent acquisition and talent advisory. So thrilled to have her here with us today personally, and as she shares the story with many of you joining from especially different orgs that are probably going through similar challenges on a global scale, on a metrics-driven scale, on an ROI and impact scale, and as COVID and other challenges have increased the velocity and speed of solving a lot of this, the knowledge and the experience that Riki can bring to us is very helpful. So big welcome to Riki. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And just for those attending, please feel free to use either the Q&A function in Zoom or just the chat to panelists and attendees, whatever you feel comfortable. If and as you have questions as we go through, we'd love to hear from you and we'll see what, if any of them, we can get to. So without further ado, Riki, it would be great if you could kick off. What's your vision for Amdocs TA transformation, where you started and why, the point that you're at today, and a little bit more about the future? Oh, Riki, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm saying it's a huge question about the vision because I think that every vision that we had we kind of lost that vision when COVID-19 came along, and we had to, I won't say reinvent ourselves, but understand what is our new vision and how the market look like. So I would say that in the beginning of the year, my focus was how to take the different regions that we have and to ensure that we have one support, one service. It doesn't matter if you're hiring in India or hiring in Israel or hiring in Dallas, you're going to have the same standardization and support. And another vision was, how do we bring the right talents in some kind of short term to reduce our time to source and ensure the hiring managers are accountable to the process as much as possible. COVID-19 changed the game. In the beginning, we thought, wow, we have more talents than positions. It's going to be great. But we find out that candidates tend to be more conservative and less jumping or jumping from one position to the other or even applying. So therefore, especially the skills in high demand. So eventually we're finding ourselves today trying to build, I won't say a new strategy, but a new vision around how do we approach the talent of the candidates and what do we want to create as a company, as our brand, and what is the hiring manager experience that we want to lead.
It's fascinating how COVID in some ways naturally accelerated pieces of the vision that you had on the roadmap, but maybe not planned for 2020, right?
Exactly.
So
right.
I also interesting the way that you all view the connection of recruitment and internal mobility and talent retention. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about those processes re-envisioned, what's driving them, what are the new metrics around that, and what are the new goals?
Right. I think that until a year ago, we were around the average of 20-25% internal mobility, and we all felt very good about ourselves, saying, well, that's a good, we need skills in high demand, external talents, good enough, we're doing our optimization, career opportunities, and so on. But when the time goes by, you understand that it's way beyond that. It's not just to give your employees career opportunities to look at. It's also understanding that when you're looking for external talent, it will never be 100% fit. In some of the occasions, you hire people that you don't know what will be the end state, because it's all about culture in the beginning and how does that fit into your life. And we're not optimizing our internal resources enough. We need to do better than that. And again, COVID was just accelerator to understand how do we optimize our internal resources and what kind of opportunities do we give them. So we started the internal mobility revolution around a year and a half ago, saying we need to do more than that. We want to go to the 30 to 40% internal mobility. Let's see how do we do the right skills matching. Let's incentivize and put some KPIs with the business unit of how to move to higher rates of internal mobility, established a new journey for the candidates, open a new website for internal career opportunities with a beautiful journey. And on top of that, added HiredScore as a platform that will help us to do the first initial screening, looking at current resumes on the database of our employees, all specific profiles that we have, and understand how our talent pool look like and how we can push proactively to the hiring manager potential talents that they don't know that they have or are not familiar with from other business unit. It's important to say that we're a company of 26,000 employees in around 30 locations around the world. So and around 12 business units. So it's really complicated to understand where are the other talents are. So we pushed to that direction, and we finished the year, and the end of September, the number was 32%. So it means that if we focus enough on something, of course, it wasn't all about talent acquisition, but we were there to say we have the right talent pools, we have the right platform that can help us to do the first selection and first screening. We're gonna change the perception of our employees on internal mobility, because they do have opportunities over here. Let's not let them go to other and look for opportunities. And this year we put an even higher rate of 35 to 40.
Yeah, amazing to keep the kind of eye on the target of those goals through all the other transitions that are happening. And I think the other thing that's quite notable, this merging of talent management and talent acquisition to the talent advisor, is something we hear a lot of people talk about, but not yet deploying automated solutions, and how you have this multiple strategy of awareness, education for hiring managers, for the business units, for the recruiters. I think there's a lot for the industry to learn of what's working and where, and what's working less good and where. So, if you could share a little bit more about the geographic regions, parts of the transformation that you've seen be more effective by region, and other places where you kind of held back until you saw high volume markets or high needs markets. I'd love to hear more about that global strategy.
Right. So just to give a global perspective, our main hubs are in India, North America in few locations. Europe, it's distributed in many countries, but our main hub is in Cyprus, Mexico, Brazil, and Israel. So and Philippines will be then the additional one. So as you can understand, global is everywhere. And we kind of, when we started thinking about the revolution that we want to put the talent acquisition profession, or where we want to push it, was I felt that we need to move from saying what we can't do to saying what we can do. This is A, because we came many times very apologetic about the fact that we don't have a cloud architect in 2 minutes. This was the first one. The second one is stop being CV waiter. We are not just moving CVs from one system to one hiring manager and that's it. We're much more than that. And the other aspect was to ensure that we are not just doing sourcing. We know better than that. We know how to do deep dive interviews. We know how to use digital assessment in order to have another tool for decision making. It's not just around the CVs. It's more than that. So we started by teaching our recruiters. First of all, we divided them to two groups, the sourcing and the recruiter that does the interaction with the candidate and the hiring manager. And the sourcing teams are behind supporting him. We educated all the recruiters how to look at data analytics, which means talent landscape. One of the tools that we're using was LinkedIn Insights to understand how the market look like and present that information and that data in front of the business unit and the hiring manager in a very advanced stages. Don't take the job description and then after 2 weeks come and say it's very difficult to find the right profile. Come at the first stage of the intake, present how the market look like, where are the challenges. Maybe that profile works with Google and Apple right now, and there's no way he's going to leave his job and jump to Amdocs. So, let's put everything on the table, talk about it in the beginning, set expectations. And I think that another amazing tool that we used was the HiredScore, right? Trying to put all the relevant, the short list in a very short time frame, saying, let's put the number of CVs aside. Let's look at the quality, okay? Because so if I'm bringing the data, the talent landscape into the table, putting myself as a talent advisor and not just a CV waiter, and then bringing in a few days or even 48 hours an initial list of 10 potential candidates that are rated from 1 to 10, that means I'm changing and I'm doing some transformation. And it took us some time. It took us around a year because we started the implementation in India where we're massively recruiting. Then we moved to North America where we have a very strategic sites and working with our VIP customers. And then we moved to other locations. But bringing that kind of approach and the data, those two aspects of data into the table changed dramatically the way hiring managers and business unit look at us. And today we're part from the strategic workforce planning of the company. And there's almost no deal or no direction of hiring that is moving on before bringing the relevant regional talent acquisition managers into the table.
It's amazing the speed and the transition to that talent advisory and to the data driven. I think a question a lot of people have is, do I upskill my current team? Do they have what are the skills of the talent acquisition of the future? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about the people side. And as the leader of this org, inheriting 2 years ago, pre-transformations to driving that transformation, did you change the people? Did you add new people? Did you upskill the current people? And what's the vision for what that function does going forward?
Right, right. I think that 2 or 3 years ago, it was all around the sourcing, right? A person that was excellent on LinkedIn, we thought that, wow, he's the best recruiter that I have. But looking at projects, um, for example, if I need to do some ramp up in specific location in, I don't know, in Russia, it's a place that I never recruited before. So the profile of the recruiter will be some kind of a project manager that needs to understand around how the market look like and what are the platforms of social media that we can engage with, and understand which interfaces needs to be on board. Is it immigration? Do we need to change our contracts? Do we need to look at our compensation and benefits data? So it is a person that stands very strongly, very partnering with the business. And I won't say that all my 90 recruiters has those skills. So obviously you can take a team of 90 people in 13 different countries and ensure that in a year time, they're all going to be data analytics, data driven. They will understand how to deep dive, to do some deep dive interviews and be a project manager. So what we did, we kind of select from the team of recruiters that we have, around 10 to 15 people that we know in every region, between 2 to 3 people in every region that we knew that are capable. And we moved with accelerated upskilling plan, going step by step, making sure they understand how to do the project management part, and then at the same time learn about the data analytics part. And we find out that those people are not very strong around assessment and deep dive interviews. So we took another team of 10 advanced recruiters and educate them around what do you do in order to ensure that you have another aspect of the person that you interview into the discussion with the hiring manager. So you kind of need to, understand how the pool of recruiters look like, what are the strengths of the people that you have on the team, and just do some kind of matching between what you need as a profile. And again, it sits by region. So the person who is a project manager are giving project management skill support to the full team. And the person that know how to do assessment when we need a deep dive assessment, he takes the lead. So it's not just one recruiter have 20 to 30 open positions and that's what he does. He does more than that. Again, I'm not saying the revolution is about to end and that's about it. Yes, some of the recruiters had to leave because some of them didn't like the upskilling and the accelerated North Star that we're going. And some of them said, yeah, but I just want to be a good resourcer and be behind the scenes. So for the excellent ones, we say, yeah, stay with us. But for the ones that didn't have the advanced skills at sourcing and didn't want to do anything else from what we suggested, so there was no open position for them. I have to say we didn't have a huge attrition, but there was like a feeling of, okay, so I'm gonna look for some other job in that will fit my needs. And it was fine. And for those who left, we replaced them with people that knew from the beginning that this is the role they are entering to.
Yeah, the peeling back of the onion, starting small with almost a super user group, studying what they're missing, what are the gaps. And I think that layered approach is something that requires, one, your patience, two, your leadership in really caring that people get there and giving them the investment of skills to get there. But third is the business buy-in, right? To give you the time and the runway. So I'd love if you can talk a little bit more about how did you get the business bought in to the transformation, and how do you continue to get them to buy in? There's, of course, showing ROI, showing value. If you can speak about a few metrics in a generic way, that would be great. But I know a lot of people would love to hear about that.
Right. I would say that the most challenging interface is the business unit / the hiring managers. And I would say that, in specifically in a company and that is established 40 years ago, because many of the leaders, and not necessarily the senior ones, but the senior ones as well, are between 10 to 20 years in Amdocs. So therefore, a lot about what's going on outside, it's what they know about Amdocs. And I would say that the transformation or the revolution we tried to move 2 years ago is to educate them what's going on out there. Okay? Don't just sit and tell us, I expect 20 CVs in 1 week, and why do I get 3? It's not enough. We need to educate you how the market look like, what are the candidates expect to, what your job description doesn't look like the something that will be able even to, it's impossible job description. It's the perfect candidate that we will never find. So let's talk about that a little bit. I think what we did, it's not even, at the first stage was we all agreed that we need to do some education and training. But then you have hiring managers that have zero tolerance that someone will educate them how to interview or tell them how tough it is outside. I remember in one of the first sessions that I was leading with executive seniors that I told them, listen, it's your accountability, it's your responsibility. You need to be out there on LinkedIn, on social media. And one of the managers told me, yeah, and what are you going to do? You're supposed to do the talent acquisition, not me. And I told him, no, you're missing the point. It's shared responsibility. I can do the work of the sourcing. I can speak with candidates, but eventually you are the one that hire, and you should care about that more than me. So I think that in the beginning, we understood that the gaps between where we want them to be and where they were was huge. So we started in some kind of soft stage, and we initiated the workshop, short ones of 1 hour, that called The Brand Is You. And we invited them to learn about the social media world and how do they upgrade their LinkedIn profile and branded themselves. And in the beginning, it was a group of 20, and eventually, and it was an amazing workshop, very quick one, very energetic one, presenting what's going on outside, pushing the candidate experience world in between lines. But eventually they went out with an upgraded LinkedIn profile and they were all happy. Eventually we ran that workshop for 4 months with around 1,000 hiring managers. We moved then to do the workshop with the employees because there was such a big buzz around it. And then we moved to the next stage of, okay, let's talk about candidate experience. How does it look like? How the candidate journey? There are like 12 points in the candidate journey between awareness and offer. And where is your role in that kind of junction? And another point was there saying, let's do it shared responsibility, because if you're not going to be there answering for the short list that we're bringing from HiredScore, if you're not going to be there to do a very respectful interview, if you don't know how to present the offer with the selling pitch, so that talent will not come no matter how recruiters will work on that position. And I can say that in the last few months where we're getting, and by the way, we are part of business unit cabinet in HR. That was another step that we pushed in, that we need to be part from the business and reflect what's happening around us. And I can say that in the last few meetings that were coming, we hear the hiring managers saying in some of the meeting, okay, I understand the market. What do you need me to do?
Mm.
That was not a sentence that I heard from 600 managers back then 2 years ago. I think we really changed the mindset of hiring managers. Again, we did a lot of work with ourselves, all the data analytics and everything I talked about. They understood they have a partner over here and not just a punching bag that doesn't give enough CVs. So in the minute we did this transformation together, we understood and that we're on the right path. And today, as part of the AOP, it's how to be a talent magnet and hiring managers accountability are there everywhere in the business unit. There are even leadership model that were initiated just now that be a talent magnet is one of the measurement that senior managers are measured. And just to ensure they understand how they are critical in that process.
Amazing. It's so exciting to hear about the actual implementation of this and then the mindset change, which I think is what so many people strive for. Riki, can you talk a little bit more about how you measure ROI and impact, and also about the technology stack that you're deploying to drive this revolution, as you call it?
Yeah. Well, the usual ones, the time to source. And by the way, I put 2 years ago and established the sourcing team. And since then I said, don't measure us by time to hire, measure us by time to source. Because part of the time to hire is not the talent acquisition responsibility, right? It's about the manager. If he decide to open it externally after he looked for internal candidates. So we are looking at time to hire as one from end to end, but it's not all about talent acquisition. We took the time to hire, we split it into stages, time to source, and then the manager screening, and then the manager interview or the talent acquisition interview, and then the final decision. So we will look at stages where we have bottlenecks, and we look deep dive into our own teams, understand where are we stopping or where we're not pushing enough in order to reduce the time to source and the time to hire. So this is obviously will be here forever. Another aspect is the cost per hire, of course, but it's because it's completely different if you do it with 30 recruiters versus 40, especially in high cost locations, or whether you do it with agencies that, great, they might do a good headhunting, but you pay them extremely high amount of money. So the cost per hire was always there to be measured. I think what we achieved in the last year and a half to push is first to understand what is the percentage of the niche skills we have in the current mixture. Because it's completely different if I have 20% skills in high demand or niche skills, and completely different if I have 50% of this demand. This changed the whole cost per hire model and time to hire. Those people are relatively difficult to reach out to, difficult to bring them into some kind of interview process. And yes, I need more resources and more budget in order to ensure I'm meeting the objectives. Another aspect that we put, it's the quality of hiring. I know that there are, a lot of insights and thought how to measure this unknown KPI. We decided about two, a short survey that we're sending to the hiring manager after completing hiring, and a short survey we're sending to the rejected candidate for that position. I mean, the silver medalist, and a short survey to the hired candidate. So with those, three kind of surveys, we're monitoring every month how it looks like. In the beginning, we also had the measurement of attrition in the first year. And then again, my observation was, how come it's talent acquisition KPI? Yes, I need to bring the quality, the best candidate I can find, but what about his onboarding? What about his manager? What about his peers? It's not all about the perfect candidate. We can bring the perfect candidate, but the environment, the culture, the manager will not be the right fit for him. So attrition at first year is nothing which related to it. Again, it's being presented, but everyone are taking it in the right proportion, and it's also being presented in the business unit measurement, because it's them to take the responsibility and understand how do they reduce the high performer of all the attrition of the first year. Another measurement is the diversity. It's always here, it's always there, and we did some good achievement over there, but this is another measurement we would want to look at continuously.
Amazing. Partners that help you along this journey, what have you found to be most valuable, and the attributes of the partners that you've taken with you on this transformation?
Right. So I would say, first it's the hiring manager. Along the side were the HRBL that were also, captured in the concept of talent acquisition, are not bringing the right talent, are not bringing the right CVs. We're also not aware enough to the war for talent and what's going on outside and how candidate experience look like. So we engage them as well to work as one team. It's not HLBL and the business unit leader against what talent acquisition is bringing. We're all on that boat together. And so HR business lead, HR partners, head of HRs were part from that transformation along the way. And it was super important, and we saw the immediate result, because those functions eventually are the trusted partners of the business unit leaders and the hiring managers. I can't replace them. The recruiter or the talent acquisitions in entering in when there's open position, and then we're phasing out. But the reputation and the positioning of the talent acquisition, it's a lot depends on what the HR perception will how they perceived us. Another huge partner was our IT department. We have SuccessFactors ATS. It's a great platform for hire to retire, but it's not the right platform to manage sourcing or engaging candidates. So therefore, we moved with HiredScore to ensure we have the best AI platform to evaluate the right candidates and in a very short time frame. This was extremely meaningful to all the partners. So the IT department and of course you as partners. And I would say that workforce planning was also a very, very strategic partner together with the resource managers to understand what is about to come. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, let's understand what the profiles looks like. Let's get ready with the right talent pools. Let's not wait until the position will come and then we're starting from scratch.
We talk a lot about change management, right? And when we deployed Fetch, the ability to instantly receive, in the case of Amdocs, an internal and an external shortlist directly to you. Can you talk a little more about adoption, engagement, how do you make sure, and what are kind of your best practices or lessons learned in getting the end users, not just does the tech work, has it been implemented, but is it being used as that critical tool set in the pre-AI workflows? That concept of pre-sourcing before you post on LinkedIn and going to your availability is so challenging, but post-AI, that should be the default, but that mindset change has been so hard for a lot of companies. I'd love to hear more about your experience.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you honestly, when we investigate and explore AI platforms and different ones 2.5 years ago, because we all understand, and I think all the HR and talent acquisition leaders on the line are facing the same issue, especially in the tech domain. We need to look at AIs. I don't think there's any other way work today in the HR domain, including looking at AI platforms to understand attrition and AI platforms to understand how do we do data analytics. We should adopt it and do it as soon as possible. But I have to say, honestly, when we started to explore those platforms, I had a huge resistance coming from the sourcing and the recruiters team. And even from 2 out of my 5 or 6 managers back then. Because I think the instinct is, oh my God, there's going to be AI and someone else will do the sourcing. So what does it mean? That I will be redundant? That no one need me anymore? No one need me to speak to the candidate and understand whether he has a good fit or not? So there was a huge, I'm telling you, it took me a few months to engage everyone and understand that this is not, I didn't want to enforce it, right? And say, guys, it is what it is. We did what we did, and now start using it. You want them engaged in the beginning because, as you said, you don't want them to post and pray on LinkedIn. You want them to use, and we have a database of 400,000 CVs every year. So you can imagine the volume of potential talents that we have on the ATS system. It doesn't make any sense to post and pray, especially for the niche skills and skills in high demand or very complicated profiles. So we did it step by step. All right. We said, guys, no one is going home. We're going to replace the focus. Instead of you looking in a database of 10,000 potential talents in India, the machine will do it for you. You will need to focus on how do you engage those candidates and what is the right preparation. And you're going to invest time in speaking with hiring manager, getting to know the talent landscape tools, getting to know how you're going to do assessment. We're going to move what you're doing. Instead of doing the back office work and the dirty work of sourcing, someone else will do it. You can upskill yourself. There is a career opportunity. Again, not everyone liked it. And there were few that said, no, thank you, and left. But we were very, very assertive about, and we knew that it's the right way. So therefore, we started in India where we have mass recruiting. We saw in few weeks, immediately huge adoption. It took them some time. It wasn't an easy one. It's not the muscle, the intuitive muscle of sourcing and recruiting teams to do so. But, and we set some KPIs few weeks after. We didn't want to push the KPIs in the beginning, but we did after a few weeks. And then it went up and up. When we got to the KPI that we wanted, we celebrate the success. With the help of HiredScore, we put some excellent business case to understand how we can reduce the time to source. And it was adopted. Next one was North America. We went region by region. Over there as well, huge resistance. And then what we learned in India, we implemented there. Today, I can tell you that if I'm saying, guys, tomorrow morning, we don't have HiredScore and we're getting back to what we did before, I don't think that anyone will stay. So today, it's like, you know, in few months, I would say 3 to 4, when you use them, you kind of understand the added value. And then after 6 months, you can't live without it. So my tip when we have to move into an AI. There's no question. Second, when you pushing to that direction and you're getting resistance from your team, try to understand the resistance. Now again, it's a lot about job security and what the hell I'm going to do when someone and AI will do my work, but try to see what you can give them instead. What kind of development and what kind of upskilling you can give them instead of doing the dirty work of sourcing. And there's so much to give, especially today in the candidate relationship management that you need to do. So there's no way they're going to be without work, unless there's going to be completely freeze. And yes, and sometimes we can be at that point, but it doesn't look like it. So let's continue and show them what's the added value of moving from pure sourcing or initial lists of screening to the amazing world of assessment, candidate relationship, hiring manager education. All the workshop that we did by ourselves. You know, we did train the trainer, and recruiters that love to speak and love to be at the front. It was an amazing career opportunity for them. You know, they were no longer sourcing for CVs. They went into a room and they had a workshop of 1 or 2 hours about interview skills. So I would, again, it's not that you can move every sourcer to be an amazing recruiter, but for sure you have 30 to 40% from your team that can move to that direction.
So impressive to see. Riki, in closing question, I know we're up on time and so grateful for everyone for joining. If you can share, you just had some really good insights to peers, but what was kind of the most non-obvious thing in implementing this vision and your journey that you wish you'd known going back, or that maybe by luck or wisdom you did and you would definitely double down and make sure to do again?
Yeah, I would say finance, you know, because in COVID accelerated that, but it's not just around numbers. It's around cost and the total cost of an operation. Not just, I'm talking on finance, not in the perspective of cost per hire, but the finance of every business unit to engage him, to what kind of process do we need to do to retain and to attract people. So when he sits on plans of hiring, recruiting, looking at backfilling, looking at cost of the headcount, he will take everything that there is around the talent acquisition world, including internal mobility, into account. I don't feel today I engage them enough. In some of the business unit, I don't even know them. But today, together with the workforce planning integration that we move to, hopefully we'll do it better. So it's not trivial, but they should know a lot of the things that hiring manager, HREL, resource manager are aware to.
Amazing. For those who joined, thank you so much. Riki, you can be reached on LinkedIn, I believe. Welcome to connect. Great with everyone who joined. I'm sharing in the chat Riki's LinkedIn profile if you do want to ping her and you have any questions or follow up. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. And Riki, always such an honor. So exciting to see from vision or concept to reality, and ever more excited about what's ahead. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.